Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, I just watched Rob Zombie's Munsters movie. It was bad. It wasn't quite as bad as I thought it would be. It wasn't really watchable, but it was more watchable than I thought it would be. It's just fairly consistently awful all the way through. The whole style, the sort of mannerisms, the sort of forced, hyper, exaggerated style, I don't know what to call it, is just consistent through the whole film. It's basically just an origin story for Lily and Herman. You see Herman being created, Lily pursuing him. They end up having a relationship. They get married. They have a complication thanks to Lester, which I don't want to spoil, but if you've seen the original Addams Family movie, it's basically the same situation the Addams Family end up in. And they end up moving to Hollywood. And they move on Halloween night. And their courting basically is the first hour of the film, pretty much. The film goes for an hour and 49 minutes. And I remember when I saw the running time, I thought, oh, God, if this is as bad as I think, it's going to be a very long hour and 49 minutes. Lord have mercy. I assumed it would be an hour 20, hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half, 90 minutes. But an hour and 49 minutes was a bit of an ask. And like the first hour or so is just them courting and nothing really happens. And then we have this little complication, then they just end up, which that sort of is fairly bland and dragged out. And then it's set up at the start of the film, and then it sort of complicates things. And they move to Los Angeles, and they arrive on Halloween, and they move to a neighborhood, basically buy a house right on the spot, and they think this is the neighborhood they're moving into. Then basically Herman wakes up the next morning, goes to go to work because he made some connections, had some networking at this Halloween party the night before, and he got a job. He goes out and sees what the neighborhood really looks like, and of course he runs back in terror. And Lily just gives him a lecture about how, it's what matters on the inside, and he shouldn't judge the neighbours, and that they're going to stay there and show what kind of people they are. And that's pretty much the end of the film. I mean, Lester shows up and sort of there's a little bit of a end to that story of him, which I don't want to totally ruin, because if you haven't seen the film, I want to leave something. But there's not much more than what's in the previews. And I don't think that was the Lester sort of story was mentioned in the previews at all. I can't really remember, but I just know that it's pretty much as it looked in the trailers. Fortunately, the exaggerated stop-motion cartoon sort of thing that we had the witch do when she collapses, that's really just in one scene. There's another scene where Grandpa sends like a creature off and tells him to go away, and he sort of scuttles off to the side and sort of has that sort of motion, but that's really it. So fortunately, as much as the whole film has this sort of hyper-stylized sort of parody of the sort of 60s style comedy that the Munsters sort of had, although it was far more subtle than this film, despite all that, I don't know, I'm lost. I don't know what to, it's just awful. I can't ever imagine watching it. I was watching it, I'm thinking, who is this for? Who do they think is going to watch this or watch this, like, viewing it regularly? Like, who would watch this again? I can understand people watching it just to see the train wreck and see what it's like, but after that I can't imagine anyone buying it or wanting to watch it again. I don't know how they'd expect to make any money out of streaming once it's sort of the word gets out that it's just a crap sort of film. And I mean the main issue really, in some ways, is that the bulk of the film they're in Transylvania, where everyone is like this cartoon monster, so there's really no what worked for the series was that the Munsters thought they were normal, and that was the joke that was behind everything, and it was funny. And it was subtle, and it was clever. And this is none of that. It's just in your face the whole time, and it's really only the end when we see, well, when they're in Paris, actually, and then I think it's only when they're in Paris, when Herman and that are in Paris on their honeymoon, you see a couple of really bad scenes of people running away from them, just screaming in panic, just ridiculous, over-the-top cartoon humour that isn't funny, maybe to a 2-year-old. I don't know. God. So I'm not going to go into the whole Zoya and Lester issue and that, but that's the closest thing to a story that the film has. It's just a complication. Yeah, it's just nothing else to say. It's just the trailers, but kind of as bad as we thought it would be. I was really sad because the production design, even though the colour's too much, there are a few sets where they really, went the full mile to sort of create this world, this monster sort of world. And even though the colour kind of ruins it, it is almost impressive. And you kind of think, imagine if they'd actually had a clue when they were making this film, it could have actually been quite fun, and they really could have shown a lot and did a lot. But it's just a big, huge, over-the-top, cringe failure. And I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.